everyone. Welcome to special presentation once again with Mike's and Ethan. Or
Al will not be seen
Not
tonight.
be seen tonight.
yes, once again we have Mike Westfall. I'm making up for the fact that I did 2 shows with Mike last year and didn't have Mike on to advertise any of them. So once again, I want to say, please go and listen to Mike's podcast, Advent Calendar House. It is my next favorite after my own. And if you know how much I listen to my own podcast, you know that's very high praise.
Thank you.
What we're looking at today is the last of the toy-based properties for Oy Vey Toy May. We'll be back to comic strips sometime soon. But first we have to look at, Bitter Corella, other Mike, would you agree that what we've been looking at has been getting progressively more insane?
I would 100% say that. We started with a pretty high bar when we looked at My Pet Monster, the movie film for theaters. I would not.
It started with Transformers, My Little Pony, and G.I. Joe.
Oh, that's true. Okay, those things.
Your panel.
That's right. Those things were all incredibly normal compared to everything that has come after.
yeah, they were.
We're talking about 3 movies or one, a sentient mood-changing goo, slimes and ponies, body horror space like bog leech bugs, and all the Transformers you've ever loved dying horribly. So, and those are all normal compared to everything else. Because My Pet Monster was a little strange. It didn't go where you'd think it would go.
No.
But it felt like it was a product of a very typical 80s mind, just throwing a few too many things together. Mad Balls got a little weird because it was the plot of the Aerosmith video game, but with Mad Balls. and then last week we did Poochie, which is kind of feels like you're having feels like you're dying and just having your brain is just releasing chemicals. But this week we've got what have we got this week?
Tell us about it, Mike.
Oh, we need to be consoled by the Huggabunch.
This is my first time seeing the Huggabunch.
Oh, you've never seen it before? Oh,
nope.
How I envy you having it ahead of you for the first time.
So, was this was a toy? I'm assuming you could buy these things.
Yes. A toy. Let's once again consult our good friends at Ghost of the Doll, who should know something about Huggabunch. Let's see, Hugga. That's one word.
Yeah, they're on there, and every single character in this special. Well, every single Huggabunch character in this special is on there.
But we don't get the best. I feel like there was probably no merchandise made of the best Huggabunch characters.
No,
depending who you think the best Huggabunch characters are, but I'm sure that none of them are the actual Huggabunch.
No. Ethan, you know me. I think you know who the best character in this is. In my opinion,
I know exactly who your favorite character is.
Yeah. But we'll get to that.
Yes.
So the Huggabunch. I will say, before we get into the actual Huggabunch, I will say this: if you know nothing about the Huggabunch, like me, and someone told you you're going to watch the Huggabunch movie, this is kind of like the movie that you would imagine, like in your head, and it's a kind of movie that you would be like, oh, it's garbage for kids. It's going to be really awful and stupid and make no sense, and you would expect the actual thing not to actually match the parody of it that you had made in your head, but it does.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
So I remember watching this as a kid. I remember being at, I think, an aunt and uncle's house, and they put this on for my cousin, who's a few years older than I am. And so she would be right in the target audience for this movie at the time. I think this came out in 1985. And I just had this faint memory of bits and pieces of this. And then It was so long ago that I forgot about the hug. I forgot that it was about the Huggabunch. I had confused it with Popples. You remember Popples?
Oh
Yeah, I
shit!
was thinking
Yeah.
about doing. I was thinking about doing Popples for Oy Vey Toy May, but I looked at a couple of episodes of Popples, and there's kind of nothing there. It's kind of
No,
disappointing.
there's nothing, but I thought this was about Popples. I tried searching for it, thinking it was a Popple special. And I remember the bit about the whole storyline of the grandmother was something that stuck in my head. And of course, I couldn't find anything because it's not a Popple special. And then
Yeah,
it's about 2007. I'm with my wife. Well, we weren't married yet. We were at her parents' house. She digs out this old VHS tape of the Huggabunch and puts it on. And about 10, 15 minutes in, I realize, wait a minute, I've seen this. I've been looking for this for years.
in fact, I think that's about when you were like, I gotta marry this woman.
Basically, yeah, this is a building block for my marriage.
Yep.
I'm not surprised that you would have thought this was Popples because I mean everything about this does scream Popples, and I feel like Popples were kind of like more successful than this.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot more Popples in my childhood than I did the Huggabunch. I don't think I knew anybody who had any Huggabunch characters until I met my wife.
Yeah, I feel like everyone had Popples toys, and I think there actually was a Popples television series, so that also got them some. Mhm.
Yeah, there was a Popples television series, and I definitely had a Popples toy myself. I think the one I had was Puffball, and but actually I think I was really disappointed in Popples because I was like, oh, they just have like a single pouch that you sort of roll them into. I thought you could zip them up into a perfectly spherical ball, which you could not.
Oh,
Okay.
Nice.
I was sort of like, they half-assed it. Oh, I'm not so interested now.
Yeah, the Popples technology has improved a lot because now you actually can buy like backpacks that kind of like reverse into stuffed animals, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, I see them sold at a lot of conventions now. I don't know how much longevity these things have because I assume they fall apart pretty quickly if you're stuffing them with, not stuffing, but instead, books. But but you see them and it's like that's what Popples were kind of going for. And but I mean, at least the Popples had a gimmick, so I think that's probably why they made it big in the Huggabunch. Which, as far as I can tell, they're doll, they're just dolls.
I mean,
right?
they do come with an action feature. They can, in fact, be hugged, unlike other dolls.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you tired of disarming the poison needle in your teddy bear every time you hug it? Well, guess what?
Yep. The unique sales proposition of Huggabunch that they can be hugged. The Huggabunch movie. So Mike, so you remember the important thing about this, which is the grandmother plotline.
Yeah, so the underlying message of the movie for kids, I guess, was supposed to be hugging is fun. Everyone should hug more. But the message I left with was your grandmother's going to die.
Yeah, I feel like this. If the grandmother plotline wasn't in this, I would just be like, this is this is a pretty goofy 80s. I don't know what you would call this genre of thing. This kind of snuggle pump shit. But
reminded me of that Pillow People special we watched.
Yes, it's a lot like Pillow People, isn't it?
It's everything in the land of Huggabunch is like pillow-tastic. It's all soft and huggable, so it is very Pillow People coded. But I think the grandmother thing is what really elevates this to another level, because I just imagine watching this if you're a child who has possibly an older relative who is suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia or something, and you see the special that's like, you can hug them better. That is kind of problematic.
Yeah,
to say the least. Like, I feel like I can just imagine some poor kid who's just like racked with guilt that they didn't hug their grandmother enough to save them.
Oh my goodness,
That's
yeah, this could be really damaging if it's shown to the wrong kid.
yeah.
Yeah.
The right
So,
kid at the wrong time.
oh yeah, I just imagine that, like, if you are a kid who, your grandmother died or is in the process of dying, and your parents are like, we really need something to help explain this to them, and they just hear, oh, the Hug-a-Bunch movie is dealing with this topic. Well, here we'll get that, because that's another 80s parent thing where it's like, well, we don't want to talk to our kid. We'll have Mickey Mouse explain death to them or something.
Oh boy, I'm glad there isn't like a Smokey Bear for grief.
No.
Only you can prevent death. Oh man. I guess the Hug-a-Bunch is kind of that. So it's good that they're a little obscure. So our special opens up on this family. I guess there's Bridget is our main kid.
Yes.
And
once again, they live in a house that I've never seen anyone live in real life.
No, this huge McMansion.
Yeah, well, they have to have a big house because they have a big family. There's an extra, possibly 2 people in it. I'm unclear if Aunt Ruth lives with them or not.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, but it's the family, the main nuclear family. There's the grandma, and then there's the mean aunt. There's mean Aunt Ruth. She's a nurse. And
she's a nurse. She's wearing this nurse uniform that looks like it's from the 50s.
Yeah.
I don't think she's really a nurse. She's dressed like one of those kissogram nurses like Ferris Bueller.
And she's got a terrible bedside manner, so,
Yeah, I was thinking she looked like the nurse from Kill Bill, but
yeah.
Yeah, well, kind of.
She kind of reminds me of that old adage where they're saying, like, women become nurses the same reason men become cops, where it's just to exercise power over people. Because she is really gung-ho on the idea of, like, putting grandma in a home.
She loves it. It's like,
oh yeah, no, she's ready to go.
Yeah, I don't
sign these papers.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think it is actually established that the grandmother is, it's implied that she's kind of starting to lose it, but only in the vaguest terms. Like, she doesn't.
She messes up with putting the phone on call waiting, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
which also this family has call waiting. That confuses me now.
Yeah, I could never get that to work. And also, okay, this might explain why the family has a McMansion, because the lieutenant governor is calling them.
Lieutenant governor.
Yeah. That's important.
A call from Cruz Bustamante.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's funny that, like, the lieutenant governor calls and the grandma fucks up and hangs up on him, and the dad's like, "Oh well, what are you gonna do?" And it's like, well, what should you call him back?
He can wait.
I mean, yeah, he's only the lieutenant governor. I mean, he's not like the real governor. So, but the dad he's definitely like some sort of big wheel. He's got that 1980s 3-piece business suit going on. So, and he can afford all the
that he wears at home over breakfast.
Oh yeah. Another big 80s thing. He can afford all the latest gadgets and gimcracks for his shitty son as well. So,
Yeah.
Because there is a brother, and he's a real piece of shit, this brother. Yeah. He only likes computer games and baseball, and he hates hugging.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, and I have an addition here. Now, many of these things that we've been watching are completely obscure and have had no other kind of eulogizing, but the Huggabunch, I at least have the book adaptation for.
Whoa!
Oh, okay. So there's what happens in the book of the Huggabunch?
Yes, we have the storybook version of this special is called A Huggabunch Hello. So I guess this is the pilot. So, but it does in fact touch on most of the same issues. At first, I want to share, in our special, the brother is obsessed with computers and baseball. Look what he's into in the book. That little
A
bastard likes
transformer?
toy robots.
How dare you?
Boo! Man. Yeah. Toy robots were pretty big at the time.
Yeah. Okay, and our dialogue here is Bridget's father shook his head. I don't know. We like her, and we like having her here. She's just in the way, Aunt Ruth snorted. Face it, Parker, she's old. Well, it's up to her, Bridget's father sighed. Bridget didn't know what the adults were talking about until Andrew told her. They're putting her out because she's old and slow. She's going to a place where other old people live, he said coolly. Andrew didn't seem to care, but Bridget did.
That's not far off from what he actually says in the show. He
Yeah.
tells Bridget they're putting her out to pasture.
Yeah.
That's the one line my wife remembered when I told her I was talking about this tonight. She's like, I will never forget. Every time I think about getting old, I just think about that kid going, they're putting her out to pasture.
Yeah, this family has severe issues with emotional intimacy, I feel. They are not in a good place. But luckily, there's a race of tiny people obsessed with hugs who live in Bridget's mirror and watch her all the time. And they're going to solve this, so it's going to be fine.
It's also implied that either this is all imaginary and based on something that Bridget's grandmother told her, or it's real and Bridget's grandmother has also been to Huggaland.
That's a good point.
There's one scene where after Huggins comes through the mirror and is talking to Bridget, and she's been there for a while, and when Grandma's ready to leave, she kind of peeks through it, looking into Bridget's bedroom, and she's talking to Huggins, has her in there, and she doesn't flinch or anything. But they cut to her as Huggins is talking. So can she see them?
It doesn't really follow up on that, but it's one of those things where you're like, is that a mistake, or were they actually trying to blur the line there?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're kind of like, is this brilliant or stupid? I don't know.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, there's the Huggabunch, there's a bunch of them, right?
Yes.
There's about
just a clever name.
Yeah, no, it's accurate too. So
yeah, the Huggabunch, aka the Hugga Crew or the Hugga Gang.
Yeah. Now I can't really tell them apart, which is another thing in 80s cartoons where I'm like, oh, it's just it's an amalgamous mass of ponies or Care Bears or Popples. I don't know. I can't tell them apart.
They don't look
Don't
different
worry.
enough
When they
because
actually go into Huggaland, Huggins will introduce each of them by name very loudly and individually, so you can write them all down and buy them all later.
They're all babies. They're all just babies you can hug. So there's not a lot of differentiation here.
They're babies with babies.
Yeah, they have.
That's
Huggabunch
toy
dolls
feature.
Yeah, they come with little baby dolls that they also hug, so you can have a whole hugception going on.
So even when they're not hugging you, they're hugging something.
Yeah.
Look, these guys really love hugging. I don't think we can emphasize this enough. They love hugging to a pathological degree. It's it's a little upsetting, to be honest, how much they like hugging.
No, I mean, but they're right. Hugging is great. We cannot ignore that.
No. I mean, obviously, I think hugging is good. I think everyone should hug more. I think that their belief that hugging can cure Alzheimer's is getting a little out there. Because
fucking wish.
Yeah, but no, just because they come through the mirror and they're just like. And Bridget's like, oh, I'm really in a bad state because my grandmother's too old. And Huggy McGee, I don't remember what the name of the girl Huggy is.
Huggins. Yeah.
Oh, that's Huggins? I thought Huggins was the boy. Okay.
Yeah, Huggins. The boy
is Hugsy.
Oh, Hugsy. The boy
Hugsy.
Is the little boy who's dressed like a Chippendales dancer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is another problem. Is like not only do they all kind of look the same, they're all also just their names all just have Hug in them. This is going to be real confusing.
One of them is named Tweaker.
Oh no, I forgot Tweaker.
Her name's Tweaker's like, don't forget me. I'm Tweaker. I'm like, how did that name get through?
Well, to quote Ethan from the Hungry Readers days, language was different then.
Sure was.
I forgot. I can't believe I forgot Tweaker. Oh, that's the thing of beauty.
Entirely, I didn't see that. I didn't recognize that.
I heard like the olive-skinned one because they have to have the It's a Small World collect 'em all set.
Yeah, that's as ethnic as they can get.
Yeah.
When they were like, which one should be the drug addict? Ah, well, the ethnic one, of course. It's the 80s. But luckily, Hugsy.
Huggins is the girl.
Okay, Huggins. Because because the girl Bridget is like, it's bad. I don't know what to do with my grandmother, and Huggins is just like, you should hug her. Like that's immediately what they go to, and it's just fun, and it's funny listening to Bridget try to explain the depth of the problem here, and then it's like hugging is not an adequate solution because Huggins is really dedicated to it.
Yeah, I really expected her to say you can't solve every problem with hugging, and then for like Huggins to look at her with fierce red eyes, like yes, you can.
Obviously, you're not hugging hard enough. Hugging can't solve everything. Not with that attitude.
You don't mean it. You do really love your grandmother, right?
We'll know soon enough.
She looks pretty old to me. I don't think I'm hugging her meaning it.
It said something like that may work where you come from, but this is the real world, and that. Why is our boring world the real one?
Because we don't have giant mushrooms. That's the one thing that separates the real world from anywhere else is giant mushrooms everywhere.
That should be the real one.
If only. I wish we lived in a world with giant mushrooms.
Yeah.
Real. That blew my mind as a kid when someone would refer to where they live as the real world. And if you're from any other place of existence, your world is fake.
Yep.
It's like, wait, am I imaginary? Is someone thinking of this right now? How do we stop? How do we stop them from thinking of anything else?
Yeah. The Huggabunch. The way to get to Huggabunch land, you have to do hugging, which causes the mirror to get squishy.
Yeah, try it at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you hug, some fireworks happen. They're called hugworks.
Right.
Yeah.
So give someone a hug right by the mirror and then run into it.
I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much about hugging.
I've added another illustration. You may notice that this copy of a Huggabunch Hello has been ballpoint penned on in many places.
Oh, of course.
Oh, well, some kid was like, it's good. Kids being creative.
Yeah, I'm helping.
This is a budding artist.
Yeah.
This is a maze, right?
Everything's a maze if you think hard enough.
Right.
So, Bridget goes to Huggabunch Land in order to find a solution for oldness. And the problem is
saying, like, we have to find some kind of medicine to make my grandma young again. She keeps using the term medicine.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's I get that, like, in a sense, that makes sense because, like, if you're a 7-year-old in the 80s, it's like, medicine, it does everything, right?
Yeah. Medicine, you mean drugs?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, can't say that, because, the drugs are bad. Medicine is good. So they go to Huggabunch Land, but the problem is nobody in Huggabunch Land ever gets old because of all the hugging.
Which means that the babies are babies forever.
It's giving me Boss Baby vibes here. So they are babies. They stay babies forever on account of their constant hugging. And They live in a land of pillows and softness. Everything is soft and squishy in Huggabunch land, and she needs to get some medicine.
They even have a wagon that has a seat belt that looks like a pair of arms.
Oh, it's delightful. Delightful.
There it is.
Yeah. That they take that to go see the bookworm.
The bookworm, who is an endless source of knowledge because he lives on a giant life-size mountain of books.
Yeah, which are not soft and squishy and huggable. So,
no, but I'm glad they scale up this.
Yeah.
I'm glad they scale up this mountain during a song break because Bridget keeps saying my grandma's leaving at 4:30, and by the time you get to the top of that book mountain, it's going to be next month.
Apparently time works the same in Huggabunch land than it does in our world, which is a little unusual for these kind of isekais. You kind of expect her to come back and just be like, not a minute has passed when I was in Narnia, but
right.
we're not working by that sort of logic. Anyway, the bookworm. I prefer the bookworm here in the illustrated book because he actually looks like a worm.
Yeah, the one of the it feels like the puppet was not quite completed, but
no, you only see his head and arms.
Yeah.
You have to take it on faith that he's a worm and not just a large nude man.
Yeah, the fact that they do not show his worm tail, but they do show arms, a feature that worms are famous for not having, really tells the whole thing. But he is basically what you would expect if you have a character named the Bookworm in this sort of thing. He's
He is, in fact, voiced by Richard Hayden, who is probably best known to children these days as the caterpillar from Disney's Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, so he's just born to play, he's born to play
long,
kind of,
things.
Yeah.
This was,
same
in fact,
voice.
his swan
He's using
song.
the same voice here. This was his last role before he died.
Oh, wow.
On a high note.
Well, I will say the puppet does, I guess credit to the puppet makers because while it's not especially worm-like, it does really give me and put me in mind of the human worm from Freaked.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess it's a success as a worm in that sense. But yeah,
some way you can make my grandma younger. You could wipe my ass.
He doesn't like macaroons, but he
kind of has a beak. That's really weird.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He also looks a little bit like kind of like if you animated Benjamin Franklin as the devil in The Devil and Daniel Mouse.
Wow. I was thinking he kind of looked like a shaved Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah,
I thought he looked like Grubby.
Oh my god, he totally looks like an octopede.
Or a nude Furby.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. He has that big nose to put so he could have like little reading glasses on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And no skull behind it. That's the weird part.
The bookworm is God, I mean, he's that kind of character. He's just like, a pretentious guy who uses big words and, kind of does that, what do you call that thing? Where he's like, he seems like he should be kind of,
blusters and kind of
that's it.
Bloviates. And
that's it.
Yeah, and seems to think himself more important than he actually is. And I feel like, once again, this is another kind of slam on people we didn't realize were autistic at the time.
Oh, didn't think of that.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Well, the 80s.
It's so rude.
But he does give us some very important information. He's full of information. He tells us that the only way to prevent your grandmother from dying is to give her a lot of hugs. That's one option. Mm-hmm. And the other option is to give her youngleberries or young berries. Young
berries. I'm guessing it's young as in YOUNG, but the YouTube captions consistently said yum berries. I was like, yum berry pomegranate.
Yeah. They're delicious. Actually, no, they're not. They are canonically not very good. But you have to suffer for beauty. So the young berries. The problem is there's only one young berry bush in the entire world, and it is in the land of shrugs.
Oh no! Not a landmass named after indifference.
The Shutter Scrags. Joke for Lindsay there.
They do not like the Huggabunch do not like the land of shrugs. I do think I think this is probably my favorite thing about this special is just the fact that the bad place is the land of shrugs.
That is pretty clever, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
a shrug is kind of the opposite of a hug because you don't use your arms and you communicate indifference as opposed to affection, and you don't touch anyone. So
it just makes me think of when go to conventions and there's always a guy with the free shrug sign now.
What?
Mike, did this make you think as much as me of the Full House episode with Ranger Roy and the whole hug yourself thing?
Oh wow! It didn't, but it does now.
Deep cut, I know. But...
Yeah. Nobody remembers Ranger Roy. We all of our memories just skipped right to Ranger Joe.
Yeah, Ranger Roy is just early installment weirdness now.
Yeah.
And Merle the squirrel.
Well, I don't remember any of them actually, but this is on Full House.
Yeah, there was a season of Full House where the one of the overarching plots was that Joey actually got to be the host of a local children's show because this local guy who had this called Ranger Roy had this show where he like, I guess he was like Krusty the Clown or something, and but an important detail about it was that he was terrified of being touched, so he had invented this thing where everybody hug yourselves. And that was like a major thing with him. And then Joey screws up and hugs him after he gets hired, and he gets fired immediately.
Oh, wow. Well, another 80s autism representation, I guess.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Man, we're seeing a lot of that today.
Yeah. So in the land of the shrugs,
which according to the book you get to through the first dungeon in Zelda.
Oh yeah, there's a little tree with an open mouth and arms. That is the first dungeon of Zelda.
Man, that car has got. You know what? I'm really not. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this car's pillowy ass.
It's wrapped in a little bow.
Yeah, it's a little much going on. It's a little much for me here.
Test drive the new Hyundai ABDL.
Okay, so they go to the land of the shrugs, and it's a spooky place. They've got sideways sidewalks, and I don't know. It's actually kind of cool, I thought.
Yeah, it's such a simple effect. They just turned the camera on its side, but for this, it works great.
Yeah. We also get like the big special effect here, which is
man. Yeah, my jaw dropped. I was like, "Whoa, that's way too cool for this."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. They've got this. What do they call him?
A hairy behemoth.
The hairy behemoth. So this thing, it's like, I guess it's like a giant kind of elephant puppet, and it just is blasting like real flames out of its tusks and trunk like it's the Doof Warrior. It's insane.
Right. He's got glowing red eyes. He's shooting steam out of his tusks and fire out of his trunk. This thing rules.
This is amazing. Yeah, this is where the budget went for this.
Sure did.
And we don't see him a whole lot, probably because they were like, look, we got one shot at this, and
yeah, I wonder if the puppet caught fire and they had to just use this one shot.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this was like it's the sort of thing that feels like the first director going full Jodorowsky and being like, where's it's gonna be amazing, we're gonna have we're gonna fire shooting out of it and all this stuff, and then they just filmed that one bit and they're like, okay, we're firing this guy and bringing in like a jobber to kind of finish this whole thing, turn the camera sideways, we got a solid walk. So but it turns out that this hairy behemoth is very susceptible to hugs, and it's a good thing because that's the only thing the Huggabunch can really do.
Yeah,
Hugsy
yeah,
decides
hugging
it's an animal like any other, and he just needs some affection. Gives him a hug, and poof, this hairy behemoth turns into a cute little patchwork elephant.
Yeah, to be honest, that was kind of a lasting lesson I took from this that I tend to work into my own creative issues, is the idea that what's the difference between a monster and an animal?
I mean, that is a good point, because a monster is just it's an animal and that's unfamiliar and scary.
Yeah.
Because you haven't hugged yet.
Yeah. I remember, because like this was a huge argument that like I witnessed when I was in elementary school. I was not part of it. I was not party to the argument, but there was a girl in my class, I think this was around 6th grade, who got into an argument with the teacher because the teacher was talking about how, in old days people thought there were monsters in the ocean, and the girl's like, there are monsters in the ocean. And the teacher's like, no, they're not. It's like, the sharks and whales and giant squid, but not monsters. And the girl's like, those are monsters. Those are literally monsters.
Giant squid's a monster. You can't get more monster than a giant squid who lives at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, I think like this girl actually got sent out of the classroom because I think the teacher started like, I'm losing control. The kids are all taking her side, because she was clearly correct. But anyway, I don't know what happened to her, but good on her. I hope she's gone far. Anyway, but an animal is a monster you haven't hugged yet. So
this kind of feels like a variant on your argument of like keeping how there should be a clear delineation between Halloween monsters and Dungeons and Dragons monsters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This bullshit where they're like, you can go in a dungeon and meet like, a mummy. No, I mean, that's not how it works. I mean, you might meet a mummy in a dungeon, but not the same kind of mummy, like it's going to be a lich type mummy if it's a dungeon. But like, if you meet one in real life, he should just be like, he just got the one eye sticking out between the bandages, and like, plus no Frankensteins in dungeons, No,
you can't. They're already trademarked.
Yeah, exactly. And no mind flayers at Halloween. Okay.
Yeah. Don't. You really shouldn't be decorating your porch at Halloween with things like gorgons. No. Just I have very strict rules about what counts as a Halloween monster, and gorgons are at best kind of a gray area at best. But I'm saying is like, look, it's witches, Draculas, Frankensteins, mummies, skeletons, bats, cats, spiders. Yeah,
werewolf.
Werewolf, pumpkins.
If they're a monster.
Yeah, scarecrows, those count.
Yeah.
But
trees.
Yeah, spooky trees. Oh yeah, spooky trees are a good one. Yes. But like you're not going to see those things if you are like, and I mean, I think like I'm not going to get into the whole thing about whether Beetlejuice and Samara are allowed in Halloween decorations, or Jack Skellington, because that's a whole other thing. That's going to be its own episode. But
anyway, decoration.
Explicitly Halloween themed, so you can't not have them in Halloween decorations unless you're going to have them in Christmas decorations.
Yeah, I mean, I will accept Jack Skellington, though personally, in my ideal platonic ideal of a Halloween decoration, I would not include Jack Skellington because he's a guy, and I feel like if people look at your house on Halloween, they should think, oh, that's like a real haunted house. That could be like a real haunted house, because I see because if you saw a real haunted house and you saw like spiders and Draculas, you'd be like, yeah, I'd buy that. But if you saw Jack Skellington, you'd be like, oh, it's Jack Skellington from that movie.
Right.
He doesn't exist in real life, Not like Dracula, who's a real guy. He doesn't scare me. Exactly. I'd be like, get out of here. It's clearly just some guy in a costume if Jack Skellington's there, because I don't believe he's real. Anyway.
Was Jack Skellington in a costume and you didn't recognize him?
Well, okay. Well, then, God, that's kind of like when people do like put like the big inflatable Mickey Mouse in a devil costume on their lawn, because I'm still like, oh, that's not Halloween. Get that shit out of here. Anyway, what I'm saying is the hairy behemoth, I will accept him as a Halloween monster though, because he's got Riz. So
perfect.
I prefer him
just to give him a big hug around the sould to make him feel better.
Yeah, how do we feel about Hodgepodge as opposed to the hairy behemoth? Because
yes, the hairy behemoth sheds his hair and turns into a patchwork elephant of some kind.
Yeah.
And who is explicitly described as a baby elephant? I don't know how baby he looks to me. Maybe because he doesn't have tusks.
He's not the size of a normal elephant, so yes. I guess he's kind of baby.
He's significantly smaller than his hairy behemoth form, too.
Yes. Yeah.
And they made him even smaller than that in the illustration here.
Yeah, they really did. He's
the illustration also makes him a lot cuter, but the version in the movie is kind of goofy, and I'm charmed by how messed up he looks. He looks like he put himself together.
Yeah,
it looks like he was made out of a bunch of windbreakers.
His face is a little weird. The mouth doesn't really seem to like move properly.
Yeah, it's weird that his cheeks seem to be slightly inside his mouth.
Yeah, he has charm, kind of the same way that like a really inbred pug dog does. Where where it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of adorable that you're in constant pain, but.
Oh, you poor thing! You can't breathe.
Yeah,
Hodgepodge is doing this Ed Wynn impression. Like, you saved me. I don't remember.
Yeah, they really bimbified him when they Hairy Behemoth him.
And he's got a howdah on his back and everything.
Oh yeah. He's I will say
mean that the evil queen was riding him.
Oh, yeah, she probably would. She's the sort, because we didn't mention that he was turned into a hairy behemoth by the evil queen of the Land of Shrugs.
Yes. She's the queen of quartz.
The queen of quartz. What's so scary about quartz? I don't know.
Well, it's hard and not soft and huggable. So,
okay, all right.
Yeah, and I guess they were just like, look, we need something that we can alliterate with queen that is not huggable. Quartz. Yeah, sure, why not?
Queen of quintessence? Or...
yeah.
Queen of quicksand?
Well, the quicksand's kind of soft. Kind of known for it. I mean, they should have I don't know. They go for this, so instead of being, well, her real name is Admira. It's Queen Admira.
Queen Admira.
She's her own Admira.
Yes. I love Queen Admira. She is my favorite character in this entire thing.
You're an admirer of Admira?
I am an admirer. I am just like...
Admira.
I mean, as soon as she came on, I was just like, oh, mommy MILF. Yes. I would like her to be mean to me, please.
Funny, my first thought was, Mary Jo Peele, what are you doing here?
Yeah, very, very, very big, was it like Pearl Forrester energy?
Yes. Yeah, Fatty Atomic Mutant would absolutely love this character.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Her thing is that she's an evil queen. She loves looking at herself. She loves, she's very vain, and she eats young berries to maintain her youth. So, typical evil queen shit.
When you're an evil queen, you have to wear a hood that hugs your face under your crown.
Yeah, it's that cowl that goes over your face that hides your hair, and then the crown goes over there.
When you're an evil queen, you have to look like you're failing to hide that you're Batman.
Yeah. That is a pretty standard Evil Queen look. I've seen it on multiple Evil Queens.
Snow White probably.
I feel like
the one.
that's
creator.
Yeah,
That's the template.
the trope originator is the. This Admira is kind of an Evil Queen's Evil Queen. She's she checks all the boxes. She's got the cowl. She's very vain. She is a huge bitch. She can do magic, which is another thing that only evil queens can do. Good queens cannot do magic.
And she has a crystal key. And I don't know about you, but I was like, come on, give us a Dorothy key. I mean, this is kind of like a low-budget remake of Return to Oz, isn't it? You've got the Fantasyland. You've got Hodgepodge, who is basically a creature made of junk, like the Gump, and you have this incredibly vain queen who goes to who imprisons a little girl who threatens her power.
Yeah,
and then you have the Shrugs.
Yeah, the Shrugs themselves. I thought they looked like cavity creeps.
Yeah, they do. They do. They also
like cavity creeps, kind of like Fry Guys.
Yeah.
A little bit.
They are they. I'm kind of. I don't feel like they really are committed to the bit. They don't really. They aren't
look like they're supposed to be speleothems, like stalagmites. But
yeah.
I feel like they are not. I feel like they need to be more slavishly devoted to this evil queen.
Yes.
I'm just saying is when I watch an evil queen with minions, I want like the evil queen to be doing like, oh, you blathering nincompoops, and all the minions should be like, oh yes, your wickedness, your evilness, your disgustingness, like that.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of that. These Shrugs they aren't like, as minions go, I was like, these guys, they got a good look, but they're just not like, their hearts aren't into it.
They're just kind of standing and watching her like yell at them through gritted teeth.
Yeah.
I will say that the design in the movie is much better than the design in the book.
Oh yeah, look at this.
They look like when if you remember in the Care Bears Land Without Hugs when Dr. Franken Ice turns kids into those weird like shadow frog things, except it looks like if he did that to Garfield.
I was gonna say these are uncomfortably black coated.
Oh yeah, they are a little
black
bit
curly hair.
Yeah, there's a bit of a
Lorax with purple skin,
lip,
purple fur.
Yeah, kind of like the Gollywog Lorax here. Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's problematic.
So I wonder if this was the original design and someone looked at it as like, shouldn't we make them like little speleothem people just to be on the safe side?
Like some network suit looked at this and was like, ooh, yikes, yeah, we can't do that. But that Huggabunch named Tweaker, that's fine. Go with that.
One of them is wearing a hat. I think only one of them has a hat. Is he supposed to be the leader, or?
I feel like that's standard, iconography to denote the leader of the mooks. He's going to have a hat, unless one is substantially smaller than the others. That's he's going to be that one is going to be like, oh yeah, he's going to be the funny main henchman or whatever you call him, the beastly of this group. Okay,
the Shrugs come out and they clobber the good guys with lighted sparklers. And I'm kind of like, you shouldn't be encouraging kids to do that. But I mean, if you've ever seen kids with sparklers, they don't need a TV show to tell them to do that.
No. Yeah, this is, they have some unfortunate imitatable behavior in the Huggabunch movie, and it's not hugging. But I do like when Admira, even though she is like, a very vain evil queen, she actually pays a compliment to Bridget. And like recognize game, and just be like, oh yeah, you're not so bad looking yourself, 7-year-old girl. And Bridget has the strangest response to this though, because because she says something to the effect of like, my mom says I shouldn't say thank you when someone compliments my face because I was born with it through no fault of my own, which is like, I don't know. That's an odd thing to instruct a child to say.
I mean, it is, but at the same time, I see where she's going, because it's sort of like, it is kind of the counterpoint to, you shouldn't make fun of somebody for something they can't help. And then but that means you also shouldn't compliment them for it either, because they couldn't help it either way.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were trying to go for a theme as in like, yeah, like looks aren't everything kind of sort of thing, which they didn't really develop that very much throughout this. It kind of just pops in when Admira shows up and they're like, oh shit, is that the theme? Okay, we need to do stuff with this. But I don't know. I just think it's an odd thing to tell like a little girl. Like if someone says you're pretty, you have to tell them fuck off.
It was a very sticks and stones response from Bridget.
Well, better
Yeah.
to that then. Well, if somebody tells you you're pretty, they're lying.
I mean, that's true. I mean, not that it's true they're lying. I'm saying it's a better thing to say. Anyway, okay, I watched this about like 20 minutes ago, and I've completely forgotten how they defeat Admira at this point, because I refuse to believe that Admira can be defeated.
Admira gets the best of them by freezing the little girl in time. I guess supposed to be turning her into a statue, but she doesn't like turn, Optimus gray or anything. She just sits in place as a freeze frame, and the others get thrown into the prison, and Hodgepodge simply breaks out of the prison. I guess that didn't occur to them that a elephant would be strong.
Oh, that's right. Use your noodle.
Use your noodle. He thinks it's his trunk, and he just pulls the door out of the wall.
I mean, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I'll give him that. But then, like, stuff falls on Admira, and she can't reach her crystal key, which she needs.
Yeah, they raid the tree that grows the young berries for the young berries, and run away with them, and leave the key right under the tree itself, just as the big protective tube that it's locked up in is coming down, which means that Admira gets her arm stuck like an inch from the key trying to grab it. And then we get to see her turn old and wrinkled and finally go Optimus Gray.
Yeah, did she die? Is that what happened?
Looks like it. It looks like she got like shriveled up, like she drank the wrong Holy Grail. It's
kind of. I mean, it's a little harsh for like the Huggabunch movie. I feel like to have because as villains go, Admira didn't really do anything that bad. I mean, I guess she did freeze a girl, and
yeah, she froze a girl and threw the others in prison. But
right.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's kind of bad, But like, they were trying to steal her young berries, so I mean,
wouldn't you do the same? Honestly,
I would 100%. I would imprison every Huggabunch that ever lived if I could keep my hands on youth berries, on the young berries. I do not intend.
Like she has to eat these like every 5 minutes because she starts shriveling up as soon as she can't reach another young berry. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, she says it's like, she actually says every hour on the hour, and as they leave her there, the clock starts bonging, and he's like, oh, here we are at the hour. So the young berries only last for 1 hour. How many do they collect? Like 20 at best. It's not even a day.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So she'll give her grandmother like 1 day of youth. Good job. But not even that, because she totally fucks up. And because there's one thing about young berries that you gotta know, and that is you cannot let them touch the ground because they will not work then.
Yeah, we see her
vanish.
plucking them. Yeah, and they disappear when she drops one.
Right.
So
yeah, because she when Bridget goes back to the real world, she goes through the mirror and she trips. And Hugsy's all like, "Oh, trip!" But she trips and spills the berries, and they all vanish.
They all vanish after hitting the second floor of her house. That's not the ground.
Hey, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
this shouldn't count, but this
Yeah.
makes me cackle every time. Like, this is the best way to end this. We went through this whole adventure through Huggaland, and it amounts to nothing.
um, does she trip on her shoe? Because the
She
shoe.
trips on the bottle. Oh yeah, no, she trips over the bottom of the mirror.
Oh,
There
so
was
this whole.
that. Is it the shoe gets stuck? Maybe she did. Maybe that's what she's tripping on. Because as she goes in, her shoe gets stuck, and then she just takes off her other shoe and leaves it there. And then I forgot about that. And then at the end, Hugsy says, "Hey, don't forget your shoe," and I remembered again.
Like I feel like. Yeah, because I felt like that was being lampshaded for something to happen, like a Chekhov's gun. But then it doesn't seem to, because I thought as well. Oh, did she just trip over the mirror when she came in? And that made me think. Wait a second. Is this whole shoe thing just because they made the Huggabunch movie and they were like, look, we don't want imitative behavior in this. If you don't show her taking her shoes off, kids are going to think it's fine to walk over pillows with shoes.
We can't have that.
No, we want to teach kids important lessons, which are hug everyone, don't wear shoes on pillows, and don't accept compliments about your face.
And death is inevitable.
Yes, boy is it, because she goes back to Grandma, and Grandma is they're wheeling her out to send her off to the put her on the ice floe, put her out in the ocean.
Yeah.
To die.
She seems pretty enthusiastic, but
she
does.
She's
like, probably just putting on a brave face for it.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. I thought she was like actually optimistic about the whole ordeal. Like, those old fogies over there better fasten their seatbelts for old Grams.
That's right. He's like, God, not just a regular grandma. I'm a cool grandma.
Yeah, we've been calling her the grandma this whole time, but she goes by Grams.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But luckily, it turns out that there is a kind of hug that's more powerful than a regular hug. And because Bridget can hug her grandma all day, it doesn't matter. But a hug from her shitty brother is just what we need to reverse the aging process. Actually, or perhaps it's not even that, but just to convince everyone that, like, it's good to love each other, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and Dad finally, like, mans up and was just like, nope, Grams belongs home with our family. We want you here no matter how bad you are at using the telephone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that, like, the dad was like, well, I guess, I don't know. I just don't know. So my daughter's really upset about me kicking grandma to the curb. I just don't know. Oh, my son wants her here? Okay, she can stay. It's like, okay. Well, I mean, it's good that, like, what's his name? Andrew was able to break out of his masculine chrysalis and express an emotion. I think that's good. You know?
That's good.
Well, it doesn't help that he and Grams seem so cool toward each other, because he's kind of standing in front of her like, I dare you to love me, and she says something like, be good.
Yeah, she's like, don't ruin your eyes with those computers of yours, which is such an 80s thing to say,
Anybody see the movie The Ref?
It's been a while, but yeah.
I've not.
The way she said that made me think of the grandmother in that, who gives the grandson a pair of jeans and says, I bought you the husky size. You mustn't let your weight become a problem.
Oh yeah, grandma's trying to help. She's not. I feel like in the 80s, people were very worried about, like, ruining their eyes by looking at screens all day. It's like, well,
now what else is there to look at?
There's nothing. It's like, I'm 8 hours a day, you're looking at the bad screen. Can't wait to go home and look at the good screen.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, they were right. My eyes are shut.
Yeah, tell me about it.
You're in the astigmatism club with Eucharia.
Yeah. I got me a central serous retinopathy, so I'm always like, God, I fucking hate this big blob in the middle of my vision. It sucks.
Oof.
it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Really annoying because like I've been going to the fucking eye doctor for like I have a terrible eye doctor. I hope he's not listening. He's always like because every time I go to him and I'm like, there's this kind of blob in my vision in my right eye. Is that a problem? He's like, maybe, I don't know. It's like, maybe you should know.
You should
maybe,
know these things.
Yeah, maybe you should take your fancy instrument and look in my eye and tell me what it is. Anyway, just this last...
Maybe you can recommend an eye doctor who knows what they're talking about.
Well, that's the thing is last time I went in and he's like mumbling to himself, and I was like, wait, it was like, oh, he said, and I was like, wait, what I heard some letters in there. Is this a central serous retinopathy? And he's like, oh yeah. And I was like, so it's a fucking harmless thing. You could have told me this like years ago, so I wouldn't be fucking worrying about it. Anyway,
you don't have eye cancer.
Yes. Well, supposedly. I mean,
Yes.
this guy knows what he's talking about, which I don't know. Anyway, the point is, eyes are a fuck, and I'm sorry for derailing. You talk about my eyes. I get so mad about them because they suck.
Well, we couldn't wait for the Huggabunch movie.
I love looking at things. I don't need a toy to tell me to look at things. I enjoy the pleasure of the gaze. I'm like, I'm like,
my grandmother alive. Have you tried looking at her?
It's like, yes, I perceive it as hard as I can. Anyway, that solves the problem, and the Huggabunch everything is hugged back into submission. Everything's great.
Yes. And the whole family hugs, and we get those hug works again.
Yeah, even Aunt Ruth, who is who actually is not the same actress as Queen Admirer, I don't think.
Yeah,
no, she's not.
It really feels like they wanted to do that. But they kind of backed off on going full Wizard of Oz with this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why not. Maybe they were just like, well, we don't have analogs for all the other family members, so But I guess they just didn't. But yeah, so even Aunt Ruth's cold heart is melted, and everyone hugs, and it's all good, except that the Huggabunch has stolen Bridget's brother's baseball cap.
Yes, which she puts on him backwards, and he's like, "Wait, are you trying to say I'm cool?" And he puts it on forwards again.
Right.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Thank you, the brat.
Yeah. See, I think he's the one who really needs to go on a life-changing adventure in Huggabunch land.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the reason Huggins came through the mirror in the first place. It's just like, hey, I heard your brother Andrew is a big brat who doesn't like to show affection. Well, I'm going to put on my charm for him. And then they get sidetracked by the whole grandmother thing, because that's actually important.
Yeah, although it's like, I know Huggins is coming through like, hey, I hear your brother doesn't like to hug. Well, that's a problem I can actually solve with hugging. Oh, but we're going to sidetrack this grandma quest, the thing which I have no power to help with. But
I know a guy.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen an epilogue scene with the brother hugging his plastic robots.
I guess it like it all is well that ends well. So good on the Huggabunches.
Yes,
they hug.
It doesn't. Yeah, they hug and hug and hug and hug some more. I don't remember how the song goes.
Yeah, I didn't write it down. It's forgettable.
Yeah, they hug and they bite and fight. I don't know.
Knew we get some Simpsons in there somewhere.
Yeah, I had to get a little bit in there.
Finally made it to the fireworks factory.
I will say that, like, if they did not have the grandma plot, this would probably be the least bonkers of the things that we've watched this month. But I feel like the grandma plot really catapults it into the stratosphere. Though I will give them credit for, unlike everything else in American culture, acknowledging death. Even if not with the grandma, they do talk about grandpa being dead. So
yeah, that's true.
Which you don't see a lot of in kids media. So maybe the Huggabunch did help some kids.
It must have been a while ago, because she speaks of that so plainly. It's like, after Grandpa died, we moved into this house. So I was like, she must have barely known Grandpa. She's only 7, so.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
And Grams doesn't seem like, tore up and about, grieving her recently dead husband. So
yeah. I mean, I assume he must have been dead for a while because I feel like, if I had just if I was someone, like the dad in this family, and my dad had just died and I just moved into his house, I wouldn't immediately be like, all right, Mom, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, right. Time to put
I,
you in a home.
I would let her stay for an amount of time, you know what I'm saying, like a socially acceptable amount of time before I kicked her out, so that the neighbors didn't gossip about me. But so I assume some time has gone by, and the dad has risen in the ranks to lieutenant governor talking to guy. But yeah, so Mike, you saw this when you were a kid. You said, right?
Yeah, saw it once and then forgot that it was a Huggabunch special, and then my wife has a copy of it that I revisited. So we have a copy of this.
Wow. Is her copy from when she was a kid?
Yeah, and her copy, this isn't on the version that's on YouTube, but her copy has this little 10-minute making of the Huggabunch special immediately after it. And it
Oh, I
shows
should
you
look for
behind
that.
the scenes, including like the skeletal animatronics with the moving eyeballs of all of the little Huggabunch puppets.
Oh, damn.
Jeez.
Just immediately after the credits end, it's like, surprise, kids, everything you just saw was fake. Sorry about your dead grandparents.
That's real.
Yeah. Wow. That's actually kind of neat. They did they did the Jim Henson Hour thing with here's how we did the magic. But I guess the big question I have then is, did they show how they did the flame shooting of Behemoth?
No, they didn't get quite that far. They were so focused on making the sets and making the puppets.
I mean, that is seriously, I feel like that is the one effect that I'm like, I really want to know how they did that, because well, I mean, I know how they did it, but still, I would like to see the footage.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that in action.
Yeah.
It should be noted that this special actually won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Visual Effects.
Oh, that's right.
Huh. I mean,
they
the
were
effects
also
are not
impressed
bad.
by the hairy behemoth.
Yeah. It was produced for $1.4 million, which was a lot more in 1986.
Wow.
Yeah, that was real money in those days.
Yeah.
Now I could find it, under my couch.
Yeah. So yeah, the Huggabunch movie. I feel like, it sounds like, Mike, this is not a formative media for you. This was not something that you got a lot of life lessons from, that you've been carrying with you for until you refound it again.
Not the ones that they were trying to teach me anyway.
You didn't learn. You did not learn that you can squish your way through a mirror if you hug enough.
No, I wasn't about to try that. Nope, just learned that my grandmother's going to die.
Yeah, the hard lessons of the Huggabunch. Yeah. Hard lessons from a soft people.
Yeah, I've to be honest, the parts with saying goodbye to Grandma were in fact, getting to me a bit, because I'm sort of going through that myself right now. My mother turned 80 last year, and I feel like she has been slowly but surely, slowing down. Her voice is softer now, and her appetite is lighter and lighter, and it's making me really worry about, how much longer am I going to have my mother in my life? And it feels like, when she's not so much part of the conversation anymore, she just listens to us, but the hugs are the same. And it means the same to me. So when I embrace my mother, I think of it like how, you may not be able to speak to your cat in English, but your cat knows how much you love them when you pet them. So, so that's why I think, the lesson about hugging is, it stands, just if it's the most one of the most wordless ways to tell someone you care about them. So, I try to, it's not going to keep her here forever, but I make sure to hug my mother every day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, this as much as I'm kind of making fun of the Huggabunch movie, and there's a lot to make fun of here.
There sure is, yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's true. I mean, the idea that like you should tell your loved ones how you feel, is true and good, and
because you
a lot of
never
us
know
do.
when it's going to be the last opportunity.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they won't remember, of course, but you will. You want the last thing that you said to someone to be how much you appreciated having them in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know what? Maybe the Huggabunch movie it's worth checking out. For kids at home.
Absolutely worth checking out. I mean, if you don't, take away a good life lesson from it, then, at least, you have this, absolutely insane quasi Oz story.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can get more applicable life lessons out of the Huggabunch movie than you can out of the Dear Poochie. So.
Yep. Yes, you can.
But not as much as Mad Balls.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Mad Balls, I feel like we can defeat fascism with the power of rock and roll. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. We will. We can, will, and must defeat fascism with rock and roll.
Thank you, Mad Balls.
Mad Balls taught me it's okay to be weird.
That's right.
Really? Mad Balls?
Yeah, I learned it last week when we watched it together.
Wow, I didn't realize you'd been in such, you've been beating yourself up over being weird for so long.
Well, I've been I've been normal up to this point, but now I've decided to let loose. So, all those other grandmas at the rest home better buck up, cause
that's right. I'm going Mad Balls out.
We're going Mad Balls to the wall. Anyway, I guess is there anything else that we should say about the Huggabunch movie?
I got nothing. I'm just glad I found this again, and that it was my future wife who reintroduced it to me.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm glad you ended up creating a Huggabunch of your own. Thanks to to this. I mean, this isn't what got you together, but still.
No,
but it helped.
I think it's a beautiful love story. I think to know she's the one when you get to the Huggabunch movie.
It really is. I mean, that's. It's these kind of very specific things that enable you to really connect with people on a certain level. Much like how one of the first things that Mike and I connected through was Mortals.
Yeah, from Rocks and Bugs and Things.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Mike had a Mortals icon, and I recognized it, and I was like, "Hey, that was my favorite toy line when I was a kid." And Mike was like, "You too?" And we were kind of off to the races from there. So,
yeah, like nobody remembers the Rocks and Bugs and Things. It was not a successful toy line, but yeah, I've always had a soft spot for it.
Disappointingly, I could not find a Rocks and Bugs and Things special to watch for Oy Vey Toy May.
That's surprising.
Well, when I was a kid and I had Rocks and Bugs and Things, I mentioned, I think earlier, that we used to live in Germany when I was a child, on a military base. And we were leaving Germany to move back to the States. And I did not want to do that. It was, I was like, oh, I want to move. And my parents were like, well, you know how you like Rocks and Bugs and Things? There might be a Rocks and Bugs and Things cartoon series when we get to the States. And I was just like, really? Oh, shit, yeah! And I was so excited. And I didn't realize that they were just saying this. They had no knowledge that there was such a thing, which there wasn't.
It was yes.
Yeah. So I came to America and was like, and very disappointed with the whole deal here. And America has not stopped disappointing me ever since. So land of the free my ass. Not even a Rocks and Bugs and Things cartoon. Anyway. Huggabunch movie. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. And speaking of the Huggabunches, and you should tell everyone again, just in case they weren't here last week, where they can find you on the internet.
Sure. Thank you so much. You can find me on Blue Sky at makewistful.com. And my podcast, The Advent Calendar House, is returning in July. And that's at
Yes.
adventcalendar.house.
And if you come on the right day, you might see me. But we'll find out.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I think we'll just cut right there.
Yeah, go hug grass.
We'll cut there. Keep that in.